Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag. From the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, today I am not necessarily alongside John Butler. We will have John Butler coming up toward the end of the show here. But I am alongside Barren County baseball coach Blake Crabtree. We were talking before he came on the air. This is technically his third season, but they didn't have one last year, so it's his actual second season really coaching. And I got to wonder, I mean, we talked a little bit last year because you guys did the senior celebration. You had 5 seniors last year going out, and you guys did turn on the lights and did all that you could for them,
Sure.
I guess. But getting ready for this season has got to be the oddest situation for you in the sense that I bet you've not gone a year before. I mean, I'm sure you had practices, but a year before where you just had a gap in seasons. I mean, because you played in high school, played in college, you've coached since you got out. That's got to be the oddest circumstance.
Yeah, there's definitely been some downtime as far as baseball related, and it's just been odd. Of course, it's been odd for everybody in every situation, but there has been some downtime and some time away from baseball that, you know, I in particular have not been used to, so
Right.
to speak.
Yeah, and one of the bad things, I mean, you had the 5 seniors last year. I think there was a lot of hope going into the season, you know, with everything that you had coming back. That was your second season, but that didn't happen.
Sure.
So now you have 3 seniors this year, and you actually have quite a few younger players. I know a number of them did well in youth baseball and probably even JV, that kind of thing coming up. But as you get ready for this season, kind of what is your perspective?
Well, yeah, and everybody's going to be kind of in the same boat as we are. We've got some guys with some varsity experience, but then again, we've got some last year sophomores that are now juniors that are going to have to step up that have never played any varsity time, and you know we're going to be counting on them and depending on them to take bigger roles, and really they have no experience at that level. But again, that's everybody in the state of Kentucky that wasn't able to play last year, so everybody's in the same situation. So it'd be a lot of growing up throughout the season.
Right. This is the ultimate. We're an inexperienced team at the beginning of the year, but we better be experienced by the end of it.
That's right. You grow as you play, and we're going to grow throughout the season and hopefully peak at the right time there.
Well, tell me about your 3 seniors. They are Corbin Murphy, Zach Wasson, I think is what it is, and Blaine Smith.
Yeah, so obviously Corbin, he'll be playing in the game tonight, the big basketball game for the 15th District Tournament.
Yeah.
So we haven't had him with us just yet, but then we've got Zach and Blaine. They've been with us, and they've kind of been leading us, and you know, they have stepped up. Both of them have taken bigger roles. And that's stuff that we had to have, especially during this time. I mean, there was times when we had no communication with them, and I know, for instance, you know, I call him Wasson. He would you know, reach out to the guys and kind of keep them in the loop and keep them motivated and stuff like that. So they've both stepped up, and I know Corbin will when he gets there, and. They'll be leading us this year.
Yeah. How much have you kind of leaned on those players? You mentioned Wasson doing this, but leaned on the players to kind of stay with each other and focus on getting to play this year.
Yeah. So I talked to, you know, coaches throughout the region. There's been a lot of self-motivating this year, so to speak, because I know, for instance, in the fall we were limited. You know, we worked out for a week or two, and then they kind of shut us down again when we went back, you know, quarantined or whatnot. And I mean, it was kind of self-motivated. I mean, it's so much a text can do to someone to motivate them. So It was self-inflicted, self-motivated, and a lot of it depended on them, you know, wanting to get better as individually and as a team.
Well, let me ask you this. How many of them do you think looked at what last year's seniors missed out on and they missed out on and thought to themselves, we're going to work extra hard, we're going to be extra focused because we will get that opportunity?
Yeah, so all of us are somewhat grateful to just be back on the baseball field. Yeah. And we're excited, to get started. And I do think that has, kind of, I don't know, brightened the baseball field in that aspect, and they're excited to be there. Mm-hmm. But I do think they take less for granted now.
Right.
They're excited to be there, and they want to be there, and I do think that has something to do with missing last season.
Yeah, it's kind of a classic case of you don't know what you're missing until it's gone, right? I mean,
exactly.
So what are your kind of expectations for your team for this particular season?
So we always set goals throughout, and personal and team goals, and we've talked about growing throughout the season, and we know we may have there might be times that we play. I know 3 different weeks we have 5 games in 1 week. And that's because of the limited schedule as far as when we can play. But then again, something might happen and 4 games might get canceled that week or whatnot. Right. So we've got to be able to grow throughout the season and just continue getting better individually and as a team, and again, hopefully peak at the right time there.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys opened 2 weeks from today, right, at home against Warren Central.
That's correct. Yep.
And then you jumped straight into the district play, with the next day against Glasgow. And I guess going back to everybody being in the same boat, you know who you have, and you know who the other team has, I'm sure, but you don't really know what you got and what they have, do you?
Yeah. I mean, we know who, who's left over there, and they know what's left over here. So it's kind of, you base everything on, who you played last and how they played and how they performed, and there's really no scouting report that you can go off of as far as the previous year, because everybody's got new roles and they'll have new guys at different positions.
Just generally speaking, how do you see the 15th district shaping up this year?
I do think there's some quality teams in the 15th district. It's going to be competitive. It's always competitive, and I think there's some teams in there that can do some damage. As far as regional.
Yeah, let's look at your schedule a little more here. I mean, you mentioned 4 games in a week. You played the 29th, the 30th, and April 1st and April 2nd. 3 of those are at home, so I guess that's a pretty good start for you. When you kind of look at your schedule, how do you kind of break this thing up?
Well, the way it worked out, there's like a home stretch, away stretch, home stretch, away stretch, and then we kind of go back and forth. And it's really based on what we had, 2 years ago. We kind of just rolled over. But I do think this year's going to be a little bit different because, again, we have 3 different weeks where we have 5 games. So there's going to be some younger guys throwing in some of those games that, are going to have some growing pains, and we're going to have to take those lumps with us and learn from them. But then again, I mean, it's good for those individuals to be out there and learn from, mistakes or accomplishments, whichever comes.
Yeah, as you're looking at your roster, we've talked about the 3 seniors. Are there some other players that you are looking forward to see their growth this particular year?
Yeah, so we'll have some guys that played from as they were freshmen. You think of Jamison Bowie, he comes and he should bring a lot to the table. He'll be a junior this year. He started a lot as a freshman, and then you had Tay Pointer. He started all games as a freshman, so he'll be coming back and having a big role. And then you had Cody Moore, late his freshman year. He saw some time on the mound there, and there's some other guys that got some spot starts or got some time. But like I said, there's going to be individuals that you may have never even heard of, be in there because, again, the last time we played, they were freshmen. Yeah. So they were playing, the JV game, still learning the game, and now they're juniors, and their role is going to be increased, and they've kind of had to mature through practice rather than through games.
Yeah. You guys were officially able to start practicing February 18th. Is that what it was? But I'm going to guess you tried to do what you could during the winter, maybe especially with pitchers, getting them ready and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So any time that they gave us the green light where we could do something, we were either we were on the field, we were in the weight room, we were in the facility doing this, or even on the football turf, and we were just trying to do as much as we possibly could. And we're fortunate to have as many opportunities to do those things, even when the weather might be bad. For instance, today we'll be in the facility practicing because the weather, but we were just trying to do as much as we could. But again, we were limited. Usually we have a fall we're a weightlifting program that we go through. We weren't able to do that because of of COVID and stuff like that. But again, we're just happy to be playing. When it comes down to it, we'll take playing over any of those off-season workouts.
Yeah, let me ask you this: what is success for you guys this year? Is it defined differently than maybe it would have been in the past?
No, expectations as far as from the guys, from the team are the same as any other season. You hold yourself accountable, and we set goals, and we just want to be competitive on and off the field on a daily basis and play the game the right way. Win or loss, wins are going to happen, losses are going to happen, but the way you hold yourself on and off the field shows a lot about you, and we want to hold ourselves accountable on both those occasions.
Yeah. Back to your schedule real quick. As you're looking down your schedule outside of your district games, do you have some games on your schedule that you're looking forward to see how your team measures in those games?
There's of course, we again, our district is a tough district, and our region is a really tough region. And I looked at it, and I think we play, all but 2 or 3 of the teams in our region, and that's just for travel purposes. But if you look at there at April 17th, we've got Russell County and Logan County coming to our place for a 3-game day there on that Saturday. That'll be some really good baseball. Russell County is always competitive, and I know Logan County is always competitive. So those would be big games. That'll be a good day for baseball there at Trojan Field. And again, you look at our region. It's always competitive, even at the state level. So again, we play a lot of those tough teams in our region, and hopefully it pays off there at the end of May
right.
when it really counts there.
Well, and the season technically got backed up a little bit, but it looks like for the most part it's on a decent schedule, compared to some of how the other sports have worked out this year. In terms of in the window of time, you would usually play that kind of thing. Yeah,
we I think this week would have been next week would have been the first week. They backed it up a week.
Yeah.
And really, it doesn't, as far as scheduling affect you. We took our first week and just put it at the end and kind of flip-flopped that around,
right.
And then moved the district tournament. But for some schools, they'll still be in session that last week. I think our last week we'll be out of school. That will be the only difference for us is coming in after kids have already left the high school there or graduated, so they'll be playing after they graduated, which is kind of cool.
Well, in some years it works out that the district tournament is really after school anyway. So
snow days it can always and stuff like that. It always pushes it, but I really don't think it'd change that much. And stuff like that. It'd just be interesting to see, and it's happened throughout the basketball season. So-and-so was unable to play tonight, so we have to cancel and try to pick up or something like that. It's just going to be, interesting to see as we go through it. So
Yeah, people should just be flexible and be
That's
patient,
right.
That's kind of the motto the last year.
Yeah, you've got to be very flexible, and it's just hard. It's just hard for everybody, and I know it gets frustrating. But to schedule it all out and kind of organize it, you got to be flexible. That's right.
All right, Coach Crabtree, I want to thank you for coming in and talking to us about your team. Good luck to you guys. Glad to see you get to play this year. I think that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to some baseball.
All right. I appreciate you having us, and we look forward to seeing some guys out there.
All right. That was Barren County baseball coach Blake Crabtree, technically in his third season at Barren County. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
I am back. John Butler is preparing himself for the 15th District Boys Basketball Tournament tonight. He and I will be talking about the NCAA Tournament coming up at the end of the show, and talking about WKU Hilltoppers not getting into the NCAA Tournament after losing to North Texas in overtime in the Conference USA Finals. But they have accepted a bid to the NIT Tournament and will be playing. There is Coach Crowe now. They will be playing in the NIT Tournament. They take on St. Mary's. That game will be Wednesday at 8 o'clock Central Time, I believe it is. You will be able to hear that game right here on 104.7 The Score. And, all that fun stuff is getting kicked off here in the basketball playoffs. As I mentioned, 15th District Tournament. Boys are tonight. Girls are tomorrow night. First game's at 5:30. You can hear that game on Nash 103.7 with Jay Turner on the call. There'll be updates on our Twitter and Facebook feeds from the game, reports, photos by Greg Rich and myself, and videos and all kinds of other fun stuff. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Coach Kaleb Crowe, Glasgow Lady Scotty Softball, with us. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back here on the Brown Sports Bag. I'm with Kaleb Crowe, the Glasgow Lady Scotties, technically their second-year softball coach, but they didn't get to do much in year one on the job. And I asked Blake this same question. I mean, this has got to be the longest stretch of time you coaching or being involved in sports in terms of like just having some dead time with nothing you were able to do about it.
That's actually a really true statement. I just think of that question now. Even when I was in college, not playing baseball, I was still doing something sports related. I worked a hitting clinic job where I would teach hitting. So in March 13th, when they shut us down for those 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks, and the month, and then the month, I really had so much time on my hands. I really didn't know what to do with myself. So yeah, you're right. It's been a very long time.
So you have a young team. I mean, you have no seniors on this team. I think you have 2 juniors. How many seniors were you supposed to have had last year? So
last year we had 3, Autumn Copus, Ella Darst, and Macy Wilkerson, and we had 2 juniors as well.
Right.
And then, you lose those 3 seniors. The 2 juniors wanted to focus on, the next portions of their life. One's focusing on becoming an accountant. The other one wanted to focus in, I believe, going into the medical field of some sort. So, I went from having a good balance of older and younger to we're incredibly young. So,
right. Yeah, I was looking at your roster. I mean, you have I think you have more middle schoolers than actual high schoolers on your roster.
I do. I have 17 girls. I have 7 in the high school, and then 10 in the middle school. And I was talking to Craig Cassidy, our AD, the other day, and he pointed out something that's really true. Is I have these three freshmen that I'm going to rely on to play quite a bit, but in reality, they're really 8th graders.
Yeah.
They missed that whole season of development. So, I mean, in reality, it's like their 8th grade season all over again. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the thing. I mean, it's when you look at it, even if you had 5 seniors, I mean, technically they would be juniors in terms of actual playing experience. So, I mean, having seniors, hopefully they show some leadership, but the bottom line is you're going to have to find some leadership probably from younger players.
We will, and I will tell you, I really wanted to point out that Heidi Jackson, who is our one junior that has quite a bit of varsity experience, has really grabbed that mantle. Mm-hmm. She's leading. She's not one to lead by voice. She's one to lead by example.
Yeah,
and she's done an excellent job of doing that so far. But I've got a couple of girls that freshman group and even that 8th grade group that have really started to kind of understand that, I know I'm young, but this is still partially, my job, something I need to start looking into doing, and they're pushing forward with that.
Yeah. How much have your players communicated amongst themselves while you were in a position where you really couldn't communicate with them?
Well, I'll tell you that I do know that Heidi has done a good job as well as keeping this little core of girls together, and I know they have a group chat. They've communicated quite a bit. I wasn't allowed to communicate whatsoever. Couldn't even really send messages out. I know from time to time I would get a message from a couple of them being like, hey, any update? We doing anything? And then when, the final word came down that we couldn't play, it was, all right, so what do you need us to do in the off season? What can we do to get better right now? So I do have that. I know they're young. I keep pointing that out, but they really are a tight-knit little group.
Yeah.
So I think there's quite a bit of communication going on between them.
Other than Heidi Jackson, who you've pointed out, and as a junior, who are some of these other younger players that you are looking at to have an impact on the season?
So right now, I'm thinking about practices where we've been. We've had some girls, playing volleyball, girls playing basketball that I don't get to see all the time.
Yeah.
Lucy Richardson, who is a freshman, she's going to be our primary catcher. She has taken a huge step from last year to this year. You can see the improvement in her swing, and the part of it's just getting where you're getting to grow up a little bit, and you're starting to develop, and
just getting older,
just getting some age on you. Lucy, Ellery Haynes, Emery Gardner, Addison McCoy, and Abigail Elmore. I have 2 8th grade pitchers that are going to be my 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And they're pretty talented. I get that's something to look forward to. I get to watch that development this year, but as we go forward, we get to watch that development into freshman and sophomore, and I think there's a bright future with that core right there.
Yeah. Now you open your season 2 weeks from today at Cumberland County at 5:30 p.m. Turn around the next day, also on the road at Metcalfe County. And then it's the 4th Region All-A, and you get to actually play one of your district foes in that game, I'm sure.
Yes.
Coaches always love when that happens. So you play Monroe County there. You don't really open your district play until April 13th against Allen County Scottsville. When you look at the 15th district, how do you think it shapes up this year?
Well, I'll tell you that outside of, the Louisville area and the Lexington area and then in Bowling Green, this is maybe the most difficult softball district that's around. You think about Allen County. Allen County has multiple state championships.
Yeah.
Barren County is always really good, and I got to commend Darryl for the job that he's doing over there. They're an absolutely loaded team with a lot of talent. And Treg at Monroe County, he's done a fantastic job there as well. Treg was one of my former high school basketball teammates and baseball teammate, and he even taught me. And I communicate with him. We play fantasy football together, so we have conversations about softball pretty often. Whenever I was in school, softball was always overlooked at Monroe County, and he's done a really good job of building them up. It's just a tough district. Glasgow, even in my memory thinking about it, Glasgow had some really good teams. I know that I guess it was 2000 and I want to say 14 when Greenwood went 40-0, and I know that Glasgow gave them every bit of a game they wanted in that first round of the regional that game. So, it's a tough district. Barren County is, I think, right now probably the one that we're striving to look for. So you got to take them out of the championship seed. If you want to be the one that runs the district, you got to go through them, and so that's our goal right now.
And when you look at your schedule as a whole, how do you kind of break it up? Do you kind of look at it in pieces and in terms of what you're trying to develop at different stages of the schedule?
So as I made this schedule, I didn't realize that I had done it, but it actually works out pretty well. The first half of our season is really heavy with away games, and the second half is more of we get to stay home a little bit more. But what we're trying to do is we're thinking in 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
We set a goal before we start the games. What do we want to accomplish? How do we want to get better? What do we want to see by the end of this 2 weeks? And then reset that switch at the next 2-week section. So we're always trying to do those small little steps moving forward.
Yeah. You mentioned the opening with the away, and then you have a home game. Your first home game is on April 12th. I guess that's after spring break. Technically speaking, I think that will be the first high school game played on the field.
Well, it's actually that Monroe County date, the All A. It's actually at Monroe County. I should have. I'm sorry. It's at Glasgow.
Oh, that is at home.
That is at home.
Okay, that will be the first one.
That'll be the first one. 3 years in the making.
Yes.
So yeah, it is the first home game, and I'll tell you that we've got our seating capacities with COVID and everything. We've got a sizable number of people we get there. We're actually going to plan on honoring our seniors from the previous year's group.
Okay.
On that first day.
So that'll be March 31st.
And along with trying to commemorate the opening of the field and actually have an official pitch thrown, and
Yeah.
we'll finally get to that point. But yeah, that game has to be played for that tournament. So it's either going to be that Friday, that Wednesday, or that Friday. We'll get that done eventually. So,
yeah.
Well, it has to happen this year.
Right. I mean, it's kind of an ironic situation to have a field there for a year and a half. I guess is how long it's actually been available.
Yes.
Now, you guys were able to play the middle school season, though, right? And you were able to play there?
That is correct. We got to actually host the middle school district tournament there. And, I'll tell you, and I may be misinformed, but I've been down there probably more than anybody, and I'm telling you, it's a little wind tunnel down there. So if you want to see offense, you're going to see balls fly out of that
Is
park.
That right?
Yep.
All right, so they'll be landing in the neighborhood over there.
Yep.
When you, as you approach this season, considering everything that happened in the past year, what has kind of been the message to your players headed into this season?
We had this moment in practice the other day where we started off really slow. It was sloppy. We didn't look good. And we brought the girls together and we asked the question about, are we making these mistakes because we are just not mentally into it, or because we're putting max effort into it? And the girls recognized that, we're just not mentally into it right now. So I say a few things over and over again. I talk about, we have to have the fundamentals down. We have to do the feet work right. We have to have all those things. But the thing that we're preaching the most is being mentally tough. When your average age of our team was 17 girls is 8th grade. And when you're going to be playing teams that are full of 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds, it's going to be tough from time to time. These girls got to be mentally tough to understand that, I'm facing girls that are 5 years older than I am.
Yeah.
When things get tough, not to quit on yourself, to keep pushing forward, because that's how you develop. Every at-bat, you got to be mentally tough. Every defensive rep, mentally tough. Our pitchers are going to have to be mentally tough. We want strikes. We don't want walks. We can't defend a walk. So, our goal is to be the toughest, mentally tough team in the whole area.
Gotcha.
So that's what we're pushing.
All right. Well, Coach Crowe, I appreciate you for coming in and talking to us here. I know you got other things to do in life. And good luck to you going with the season. Can't wait to finally get out there and see some games on that field.
Absolutely.
It looks nice from a distance.
You and me both.
Right. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. Again, thank you to Coach Kaleb Crowe, Glasgow Lady Scotty softball coach, for joining me here on the show. We take a break. When we come back, John Butler and I will be talking NCAA Tournament and snubs and whatnot.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, it's about that time. Actually, it is that time. It's playoff season time. And, here's the thing about it is we had the selection Sunday, and we here in the state of Kentucky are all Morehead State fans this year because our big three, so to speak, WKU, they lost in their conference final to North Texas in overtime on Saturday. Louisville, of course, lost last week to Duke, and then Duke couldn't finish the ACC tournament because of COVID positive results. And then Kentucky, they were put out of their misery in the SEC tournament, as it turns out. And Morehead State came out of nowhere, more or less, to win the OVC, pulled a couple of upsets. And, maybe that's the way North Texas did it, too, in the Conference USA. So here we are. We're all pulling for Morehead State. They get to open against, a 4 seed here. I think they ended up being the 15 seed, John. So, that's the way it goes, I guess, in this year. Morehead State's at 14. They're playing West Virginia. So I guess that's the way it goes in this year of the COVID tournament.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to start off with Western Louisville, or do we just want to jump right into the tournament? Because I think both of them are stories.
Well, let us go ahead and start off with the Western and Louisville situation.
Okay.
And then we'll get to the tournament. We'll kind of give you guys an idea of, who we think might win and that kind of stuff. But let's just go ahead and start with Western. I mean, we talked about this for, I don't know, this whole season. It feels like that despite the quality of players that the Hilltoppers have and despite the quality of schedule they ended up playing, they were going to still have to win the Conference USA tournament in order to actually get into the NCAA tournament. And they, this has been the thing through Stansbury's time, and we can just scratch last year since we didn't finish off the Conference USA tournament last year, nor did we have an NCAA tournament. So 3 or 4 years, the Hilltoppers have been in the Conference USA finals. 3 or 4 years, they seem to have found a way to lose those games. And it's just the bottom line, I think.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I really believe by watching Western Kentucky all year, most of their games, that they are legitimately a deserving team.
Yeah.
The bottom line, though, is pretty much Conference USA is a one-bid league, and what makes it painful for Western fans is you ran the gamut of emotion. They started off in the finals down 17-0.
Yeah, they were just terrible in Ethiopia.
Horrible. And to be honest with you, the game was not very well played anyway.
No.
But to give them credit, they got it within 7 maybe or 10 at halftime. I think it was 10 at halftime, and then made a big run in the second half. And North Texas only scored 14 total points in the second half.
Right.
But I guess what makes it tough is that Western's up 7 with 3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Up 5 with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And proceeds to have 3 turnovers and miss the front end of the bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had every opportunity to put the game away. You just have to win those games. That's just the bottom line. You can't throw it away 3 times and not get a shot off at the end of regulation. They didn't get a shot. They had made another turnover, and it's just for a team that's dominated with seniors and juniors, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's mainly seniors. It's a bitter pill to swallow. You always remember those games that you think you should win.
Yeah. And
you just got to win those games, and they did not. They didn't play all that well. Hollingsworth really struggled. Bassey struggled. Anderson played well.
Yeah.
McKnight,
except for the turnover at the end there. Was it in overtime? He had the turnover.
He had the charge.
Yeah,
I don't know if he had the turnover, but it was just a tough way to lose, especially when everything's on the line and going through everything they went through this year, and then not getting a chance last year.
Yeah.
It just stinks.
Yeah, and I don't know, lots of people are going to talk about a lot of things when it comes to Coach Stansbury and that kind of thing. The bottom line is this. They brought Rick Stansbury to WKU because he's a Kentucky kid and he's a proven recruiter, all right?
Yeah.
And he's proven with the talent that he's brought to WKU that he can recruit. The team has not finished the way that the fans would hope. Even going back to when these guys, their freshman year, that loss to Marshall, was some mistakes at the end and gave Marshall a shot to win the game, and they did. And then, when these guys, their sophomore years, talking about Hollingsworth and Anderson, they end up losing by 6 in the finals. And so you kind of look at these things and you say, this team should have been in the NCAA tournament twice probably in these 4 years. But at the same time, it's still kind of a mixed match of talent in some ways. I mean, Charles Bassey, you can't replace him, but they've not really had a consistent guard as far as ball handler, that kind of thing, to set up the offense through these 4 years. I think they have that coming up, so we're not going to see Charles Bassey again, but I do think the stable is full for the Hilltoppers. A lot of people probably lamenting this as the end of a run, but I'm not so sure about that.
I don't think it's so, and I can't. I don't know what. Be honest with you, when your team throws it away 3 times and then you miss a bonus.
Yeah.
I mean, from a coaching perspective, is there something else? Maybe could he have run a different play, or It's hard for me to put it a lot on him. I mean, the players. We had the ball in the hands of our best players late in the game.
Yeah.
And sometimes players have to make plays not only for you as a coach, but for everybody. And plus, we didn't get didn't get to stop. Give them credit too. They made the shot to send it in overtime as well. And players have to make some plays, and it seemed like we did struggle sometimes in these tight games all year. Western did, and won some, lost some.
Right.
It just stinks. I think he's done an overall really good job and it's elevated the program. But when you're in one bid leagues, oftentimes it comes down to play here or play there, and if you don't make those plays, then you don't get that coveted bid that you want.
Yeah. Well, and also they were down 17-0 to start the game.
Yep.
At some point in time, the players who are on the court have to show up with a certain sense of urgency. And I do believe that is a problem with this particular group, not just this year, but through the years, that we've seen them show up in games against people they should beat and not play with that sense of urgency, because we see them show up against Alabama and Arkansas and some of these other programs that they're not supposed to beat and demonstrate that they can do it.
Right. There have been inconsistency in terms of that throughout the years. You can't tell me they weren't ready to go when it's all on the line. It may have been more nerves. Who knows what it was?
Yeah.
But I know they were ready to go. They knew. Plus, they've lost to North Texas the last couple of times they played them. So
right.
I don't. It's just one of those crazy situations. From a coaching perspective, I think Rick waited till there's down 10-0 before he called timeout. But I don't know. Did you call it when you're 6-0? Then you start. All those things. What difference does it make? They're down 17. They're up 7 with 2 minutes to go.
Right. Yeah.
All that's out the window. Now you're up 2. Now you're up 7. You just got to win.
Yeah, I think the sense of urgency or not sense of urgency, whatever it is at the beginning, is one thing. The inability to finish is a completely different issue.
That's correct.
Meanwhile, the Louisville Cardinals
out
of the tournament. I'm sure a lot of folks really thought they were going to be in. I think you and I both thought they were going to get in. But there were, you had Georgetown winning the Big East. They weren't supposed to.
Right.
You had
Oregon
North
State.
Texas here knocking out WKU, Oregon State.
North Texas, that's a one-bid league anyway, but I think it's Oregon State and Georgetown.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't think Louisville was the next to last team. I thought they didn't help themselves when they lost to Duke.
Yeah.
So they made themselves vulnerable. Listen, do I think they should be in? I do. It's the ACC got 9 teams in, and Louisville was 9-6 in that conference.
Yeah.
I think they should be in, but do I think they were going to win many games? No, I do not. I don't think they were good enough. They had way too many holes offensively. So, it does stink, and, the controversy that people are going to add to it is the athletic director of UK is the commissioner of the commission. Yeah. So that just adds to it. I'm not losing a lot of sleep over it.
Yeah.
I wish they were in. Probably should be, but that's the way it goes.
I guess the shocker for me is that Syracuse did get in and Louisville did not. And
well, Syracuse is playing better at the end of the year.
They are, and I think that's kind of the, in a way, this selection committee, it feels like they did not take into account the issues that were related to the season as they made some of these selections.
Louisville had 2 big COVID pauses that really hurt them.
Yeah, one was like 19 days. So they ended up playing only 20 games, and maybe that had a factor. Maybe the selection committee looked at it and said, we don't know how good they are or not, at this point in time. And as you mentioned, Syracuse was playing better at the end. They're an 11 seed. But, I guess that's the way that cookie crumbles.
Yep.
As you mentioned, the ACC still got 9 teams in. I'm not sure if they actually had 9 deep in the conference. The committee thought so. I guess we shall see. It's a pretty interesting bracket overall. We got, the 4 number 1 seeds. Gonzaga's the number 1 overall seed, right?
Undefeated.
Undefeated, that's right. And then I guess the number 2 overall, another number 1 seed was at Michigan or Baylor. I'm not sure which one it was.
Baylor's 2.
Okay.
Illinois was 3 and Michigan 4.
Gotcha.
I believe that's the.
Yeah, and when you look at that, I think last week we talked about who we thought would win this tournament, And you are high on Baylor, and I guess Michigan and Illinois, not as high on Gonzaga.
Like I said, I like the Big Ten and Baylor.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ohio State could win it.
Yeah.
I really do. In any of those, I just the only thing I worry about now, Gonzaga is in a great bracket.
Yeah.
If Iowa was the number 2 seed, and listen, I respect Iowa's ability to score, but they struggle defensively.
Mm-hmm. Kansas
and Virginia are 3 and 4, and they're both had to bow out of their tournaments due to COVID.
Yeah.
Plus, Gonzaga's beaten. I think they've beaten all 3 of those.
They have.
So, I mean, you're talking about a favorable bracket.
Yeah.
Gonzaga's toughest game may be their second game. They've got the winner of Oklahoma and Missouri.
That is true.
I like Virginia. I think they play a very unique style. They got great shooters and so forth. I like Virginia, but I don't know what Virginia and Kansas is allowed to do in terms of this COVID deal. They had to bow out of their tournament.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Who knows? Louisville could actually be in. They're the first school. They're on the waiting list to get in. I can't imagine somebody would bow out. I think that everybody will try. Because you have to declare by Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine that people are going to know Tuesday. Well, you don't have to have 5 players.
Right.
And I would think everybody's going to play if they got 5
They'll
players.
find 5 people to play
so,
in the tournament.
if I'm Louisville, I'm not getting a ticket, to go to Indianapolis.
Right. Well, and that's kind of an interesting situation for both Louisville and WKU, I guess, in a way. Louisville especially, though, because they're both definitely going to get invitations to the NIT. So
Louisville will.
Louisville will.
NIT's only 16 teams this year.
That's true. So you think the Hilltoppers will get left out of that too?
I don't know.
Surely they would look at the Hilltoppers and say they got Charles Bassey.
I would think so. They're deserving. I think they're one of the top 50 teams in the country. But
yeah.
I'm just who knows.
That's true. It is a matter of who knows. Do you think how do you think all these games being played in Indiana, in and around Indianapolis, affects how this works out? Because, technically speaking, there's never any home court advantage, but there is location advantage very often, West Coast, East Coast, that kind of thing. Not the case this time. How do you think that affects this?
Well, the West Coast still has to fly in.
Yeah.
I think I just think it's interesting. The NCAA is requiring all these schools have to be – most of them are already there.
Right.
Most of these schools already knew, and they want them in by Sunday and Monday. They're going to be and of course, they've already been at most of these schools in a bubble, whatever tournament they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be isolated for the most part for 2-3 more weeks. And, as long as you continue to win in Indiana, I think it's pretty psychologically tough. Listen, they're not in a Roach Motel. I mean, they're in good places and things like that. But psychologically, it's just going to be interesting. I mean, they are going to allow a limited number of people.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the players are probably used to this all year. They haven't played in front of anybody hardly all year. So, I do miss the fact that it's not sprinkled all across the country. But at least we're having a tournament. I have no idea what the impact is going to be. I don't.
Yeah.
I do know that Illinois and Ohio State, who played today, that Big Ten tournament was in Indianapolis, so they don't even have to move.
Yeah. They just go get back in the beds they've already been in for a week.
And I'm sure Iowa and those teams didn't leave either.
Yeah.
So they're actually probably comfortable if they're playing in the same arena. They're playing at IU, Purdue, Butler, and the two places in Indianapolis.
Yeah. So
they may have an advantage of playing in the same place they just played 3 or 4 games.
I'm curious though. I mean, it's just there's an energy that comes, especially for some of these lower seed teams and those like 13, 14s, 12s, 11s, maybe.
They don't get to go home to get that buzz of the campus.
Yeah, exactly. And so also with the crowd restrictions, a lot of times those underdogs get a lift. I mean, you have from the crowd there and that kind of stuff. And all that is set aside this year as well. So, I mean, I'm curious to see how that affects upsets and that kind of thing. But on the flip side of that, going back to what you were saying about Virginia and Kansas, we don't know what their practice schedule looks like. They're cleared to play in this tournament.
We don't even know who's got it.
True, yes.
I mean, is it their best player? Is it a walk-on? I think Virginia's was a walk-on.
Yeah. Now, Kansas there was somebody actually in the had played in the game.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we just don't know the impacts of those things either. I mean, it'll be curious. You may have a roster for the team. The game starts. You look down at your roster and you're like, where'd they get these 5 guys from? I mean, because like you said, they're not going to not play in the tournament.
No,
they'll find 5 people to play in that game.
I guarantee you.
Everybody talks about Louisville being on standby, but they might as well
hold your breath.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, I don't think they got a chance. I'll be honest with you.
No. I mean, because nobody's going to give up that opportunity. No program's going to give up that opportunity willingly.
Yeah, they had to pass 7 straight days of tests before they're allowed to play. But that's per player, it's not the team.
Right.
Each player has to, and I think every team's going to have at least 5.
Yeah. Are there any teams who made it to the tournament that you look at and say, this team might be a surprise that you've gotten a chance to see during the season?
Yeah, I do, but I hate to get into more. I call it recency bias. The teams that I thought looked good at the end, I hadn't really looked at.
Yeah.
I was impressed with Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham, I really hadn't paid a lot of attention to him. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
And they slid in as a 4. Unfortunately, they're in the same region as Illinois, and I think Illinois is for real.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good. I like them. I don't like Arkansas and Purdue. I think those are way too high. They're a 3-4 seed. They're in the same bracket with Baylor. I don't like them.
Yeah, I was shocked at Arkansas being a 3 seed.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Michigan is the number 1 seed. They got one of their best players out.
Yeah.
Alabama, number 2. Alabama's playing really, really good.
Yeah, they are.
Can they continue to play? Can they win with nobody bigger than 6'7" and shooting a lot of threes?
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
That usually is either you win games or you lose them.
That's correct.
There's no in between in those situations a lot of times with those kinds of teams, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. So I think Houston's overseeded as a 2,
Yeah.
Right now I like Illinois, Oklahoma State.
I'm curious.
Baylor, Ohio State, I think they were coming out of that. I'm not a big fan of Gonzaga because I don't think they've been tested forever.
Right.
But
they've beaten these 3 teams, as you mentioned, but that was back in November, December.
Right.
It's been months.
It's been months, and they're in a very favorable bracket.
Well, and when they played Kansas, Kansas was absolutely terrible at that point in time.
Kansas is playing great at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But now they've got the pause.
I'm curious about LSU because I'm not even sure. They were atrocious defensively. I don't know what really turned around for them.
If mojo means anything, they're not going to win because of all the stuff the sanctions that I would think is going to be falling on them. Whether it's the on tape stuff that LSU's gone through. It's remarkable that they are. I'm just saying it's remarkable that certain schools had to take down championship banners and fire coaches and athletic directors, and LSU is just like nothing's happened.
Yeah. To the point, that Alabama LSU championship game in the SEC. The Alabama, they were real testy with LSU. In every way, and I think
there's a little exchange after the game too.
Yeah, there was a little exchange. They had some things to say to the coach of LSU, and there's probably because Alabama had one of their guys that was caught up in some of that FBI.
I don't know.
No, maybe not. No, I know Auburn had Chuck Person. I was thinking there was an assistant in Alabama as well.
Assistant at Auburn.
Yeah. So, but either way, I'm sure there are lots of people what you just said who are asking that same question right now.
Yep.
But anyway, I think it'll be an interesting tournament. I'm glad we have one this year.
Yeah, and the women's draw is tomorrow.
That's right.
It's on. Well, it's tonight, Monday night. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So look forward to that too. We should have Kentucky and Louisville in that at least.
They will be in it. Louisville will be a 2 seed. Kentucky probably be a 4.
Yep.
And of course we got district tournament all week.
Yep.
Regional tournament next week.
Yep. Lots of fun.
It is. I kind of miss it, to be honest with you. I miss not having this just joy last year, so it is fun. It's going to be a long week at Barren County for everybody who's working there. but
yourself included.
Myself included, but it's worthwhile.
Yep. All right, it's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.